Yep, you can go down to the shop and get the latest and greatest Uber kit. With all the bells, whistles, photo etch, and paint masks, these days the kits practically build themselves. However, a steady diet of Moose Tracks ice cream and challenge-free building can sometimes lead to bloating, boredom, and emptiness. As well, sometimes there just isn't a modern kit of that one weird subject that you have to build. And that means old kits. And we all know a story or two about these old fossils, what with their warpy plastic and yellow decals, sprue flash, punch-outs. Oh, Lord, the punch-outs. So, are these old kits worth the effort? To find out, we're going to have to go old school. Now, by old school, I'm not talking about those two-sprue wonder kits from the 90s. Those kits are still an amazing value, and I got a stack of them. No, when I say old school, I'm talking about thick sprues made of strange colored plastic, yellowing decals that shatter at the mere sight of water, round parts that are always offset, and strange smelling boxes. Oh yeah, and what's an old school kit without a couple of broken parts here and there? Hopefully none are missing. This old school kit is from the mid-80s, and it has all those mid-80s telltales. Picture box, instructions written on category C grade pulp paper, and less than 50 parts. The subject, for those of you who don't know what it is the fabled F-19, or what is billed as the most popular model kit of all time. Is it true? Well, maybe the most popular was the 72nd scale version, but this was quite the thing at hobby stores back in the day. You can still easily find these at hobby shows and at swap meets from 40 years later. Unfortunately, the F-19 never existed outside of techno-thriller novels and DOS-powered flight sims in the mid-80s. Turns out what we thought was the F-19 was really the F-117. Too bad. It looks so cool. But it is an old school model. And when you go old school, well, you're going to have to pick up a few additional tools. Boy, this kit takes me back. It's screaming for an orange tube of stringy model glue, a half pound of green putty, and a dull X-Acto blade held in a chunky red handle. But let's see if we can tame this thing with some careful building and painting. Maybe break out something new to try. MetMo sent me their multi-drive to test out with this build. While I'm most interested in seeing how it handles as a knife, the modular design lets you swap out attachments easily. Within seconds, it can be switched from a knife to a scriber to a pencil or a drill to a file and then a micro driver. I'm used to using a scalpel in a traditional scalpel handle, but I've never loved the feeling of it. The nice thing about this MetMo handle is that it feels exactly like holding a pen or pencil, and the blade is secure. So I'm going to be using it throughout the build, and I'll tell you what I think about it at the end of the video. Back in the day, they did not waste too much time on cockpits. Sometimes it was just a tub, a generic seat, and the instruments were handled with decals. This is what gave rise to the aftermarket industry that we know today. But in this F-19 cockpit, they've stepped it up from there. It's got raised detail and a flight stick. And it kind of sort of reminds me of a simplified F-16 cockpit. Knowing that I would be closing this one up and making it an in-flight, I didn't go wild on the interior. I painted the tub with a medium gray. I masked off the instruments. I painted them in NATO black. and this was followed with a dry brushing. The instrument panel was simply painted black, and it was dry brushed. The bang seat frame was painted black, and it was dry brushed as well. The cushion was given a green color, and I painted in the shoulder harnesses. Oh, and I had fun with the ejection handle. It got the tiger stripe. While it's not anywhere close to today's model kits, once it's painted up, it doesn't look too bad for a closed cockpit. But more importantly, the cockpit fit precisely into the fuselage. And I mean perfectly. Practically a snap fit. This was a good sign. I wanted to try something a little different for the Canopy. The F-117 had a gold metallic coating, and I imagined the F-19 would get the same treatment. I found a recipe for a paint mix online, which I've written in the video description, and I carefully sprayed it on the inside of the Canopy. Now, it was a bit hard to figure out how much coating to give, so I kind of winged it. I'll reserve judgment to the end, but I might have gone a little bit too heavy with the gold paint. I used the same mix to coat the sensor window and the snout of this thing. I painted both sides of the clear plastic part, and then I used a chrome pen after I installed it in the fuselage. Closing up the fuselage went okay, but the joins on the wing bottoms were weak and brittle. I had to glue these several times and get creative with my clamping to get these joins to behave. But they didn't. And that meant super glue and a whole lot of sanding to finally get it to blend in. Now, get used to that concept. Sanding. One of the biggest surprises of this kit was the fit of the gear doors and the bomb bay door. And these are absolutely perfect. I mean, perfect. You can't even get a piece of paper into the uniform panel gap around each one of these beauties. Truth be told, the fit of these parts is far better than I see in most modern kits. The only issues that I had in construction were those underwing joins I mentioned, as well as the rudders and the air inlets. For whatever reason, the rudders would just not fit into the troughs in the fuselage. And it took me a while to figure out why. They weren't tapered properly at the bottom, and they were a little too thick in the middle. Both of these problems were pushing them out of their troughs when I tried to dry fit them. So, out came the heavy grade sanding blocks and several grades of sanding sticks. And, that was a lot of sanding. And I'm not kidding. But eventually they slimmed down and slotted into the troughs. The air inlets are a unique feature on this kit. They are a complex part that someone put a lot of creativity to. Unfortunately, they did not mate perfectly with the fuselage despite my best efforts. I used strip styrene, Vallejo putty, super glue, but the kit had a good laugh at all that. So I got some revenge with my sanding sticks and even more super glue. Well, sorta. I mean, it took a lot of work to get these to blend in, and they're far better than I started, but they still aren't perfect. Then I painted the jet exhausts. Now, if there's one feature of this airplane that is very much not stealthy, it would be these massive things. I started painting them with Tamiya silver lacquer paint, and I highlighted the detail with some Tamiya black panel liner, and then I tried Alclad 2 jet exhaust for the first time, and I have to say, I really like how this turned out. I'm definitely going to be using jet exhaust in the future. After that, I masked off and painted the exhausts. I masked off the painted exhaust, and I installed the part in the back of the airplane. Then I masked the canopy using thin strips of Tamiya tape to make outlines, and then filling in the middle with larger pieces of Tamiya tape. And then I taped off the cockpit. And with that, I was ready for painting. The model is supposed to be painted black, and it would look pretty mean in a flat black finish, but I wanted to give this fantasy model a fantasy life by flying fantasy strike missions with the Air Force. So I started with black primer over the entire model, and instead of doing all the modeling freehand, I tried these photo etch modeling masks. They come in various patterns, and the theory goes they should save a lot of time or make modeling much easier for those who do not have a fine-tipped airbrush. I mixed a few colors, 2 different grays and a buff, and I started with one of the grays and one modeling mask, and I'd spray through the mask in a small area, then I'd rotate the mask, and I'd spray the next area. And I'd rotate this all the way through, and this eliminating any sort of repeating patterns. While the masks are definitely a time saver, I found it difficult to see just how much mottling I was applying. I'm sure this could be improved with practice, but I certainly went a bit heavy at times. When I changed colors, I went with a different mask. Again, I repeated the technique of spraying a small area, rotating, spraying the next. And as you can see, I'm moving this forward really quickly, definitely far quicker than I could do freehand. And this is the ugly state of affairs once all the mottling is done. Now all it's left to do is blend in things and fix some mistakes. The top coat was a mix of 4 parts NATO black with 1 part hull red, and this was thinned down to about 40 to 60 paint to thinner. This thinner mix allowed me to build up the color on the model slowly and not obliterate the mottling underneath. I was able to fix the problem areas by going over them a few more times. And this is the result of the top coat. I think the mottling breaks up the color nicely. I have a deep-seated trust issue with most kit decals. And when it comes to decals from 40-year-old kits, well, those are probably best retired. Instead, I rated the decals from my Tamiya F117 kit, and for the most part, they behaved. Since this model has almost no panel lines, there weren't any issues with the decals, but I did have to coax them into the rudder detail a little bit with some hot water and some decal solution. And once the decals were dry, I topped the model off with a flat coat to seal everything in. Taking off the mask has got to be one of the most satisfying aspects in model building, am I right? I could do this all day. It's like seeing old friends after summer vacation. Ah, there you are. So nice to see you again. Ugh, until it isn't. How did I miss that? And that's primer. Well, I got almost all of it off using a Tamiya cotton bud and some lacquer thinner, but the paint stain is etched into the plastic. It's always going to be noticeable, unfortunately. That small disappointment aside, I installed the canopy and I mounted the model on the stand, and here it is. One old school finished model with only a couple of teeny flaws. Tell you what, I won't say anything if you don't. So, are old school models worth the effort? I think the answer depends on what you like to do and what you want to get out of the hobby. Throw enough hours at any kit and it's going to look amazing. I'm a fixer at heart, so the satisfaction comes from fixing the problems, recreating the parts, and replacing or recycling components into something that looks far better than what came out of the box. And I end up with something unique to display. I'll say this, I bet this old Testolari F19 will spark up 10 times the conversation than any Tamiya F4 ever will. Even if most of them start with, "Dear God, why did you build that?" Because sometimes you gotta go old school. Thanks to MetMo for sending me their multi-drive. I really enjoyed using it. The machine handle is not heavy, but it's not a hollow aluminum tube either. It's like I said, using a really nice pen. MetMo has these other neat hobby tools available on their website, including this recently released fractal vise. Although I've not tried it, it looks very useful. The jaws of this vise will clamp any difficult shape like round tubes or an oddly shaped model part. I can think of many times that this would have been useful to have in the workshop. If you're interested in getting your own multi-drive or any of MetMo's cool gadgets, head on over to their website. The new fractal vise is also available on Kickstarter. I've included links to both in the description of this video. Well, that about does it for this model. I really hope you enjoyed going old school with me. Until next time, keep building and keep trying new things.